In October 2007, I was living in Julian. I was working at the National Weather Service. I saw a smoke plume. That was the beginning of the wildfire. Seeing how quickly that fire was racing to the west was just, it was scary. And the winds were just ferocious, hurricane-force winds. It was a beautiful, star-filled sky, but then the horizon was just entirely on fire. When you go through an event like a major wildfire, it impacts you. It's something you will remember for the rest of your life. I've been at San Diego Gas and Electric for 8 years. Back when I had the opportunity to join SDG&E, that was that moment where I thought, I can start doing something a little different here. It's not just about warning people of the threat, it's about doing something to prevent the wildfire in the first place. We can't talk about all the work that was done over the past 10 years without talking about the story behind it, particularly as it relates to all of us, individuals who have been responsible for a lot of this work.
When I look out my window or I walk out my back door and I look up into the hills around the immediate area, I see devastation. Last year, this area burnt. There was a house and a garage here that went up.
I mean, I think people come out here for nature. It's beautiful and quiet.
Nice place to live. When I come home at night, I hear owls. I hear a distant coyote.
We choose to live here because that's what we like, but we have to be super vigilant. Fire is a real concern here. When I was growing up, we didn't have as many fires.
When those first early season storms start dropping out of Canada, they bring very cold air into the desert Southwest, particularly up in the Great Basin. And when that cold air reaches our mountains, it spills over and warms up significantly as it heads toward our coast. And that's when you end up with temperatures climbing into the 90s or even 100s. And at the same time, because the air is descending the mountains, the humidity dries out significantly. We're dealing with hurricane-force winds at times.
The Santa Ana winds are awful. At the peaks, they're going 80 to 100 miles an hour. If there's a spark, nothing's gonna stop that fire.
In San Diego County, anywhere from 60 to 80% of the brush and trees you see on the hill are dead. We could get 500 inches of rain. It's not gonna bring back a tree or a brush that's already dead. So as soon as it gets warm and dry, we're gonna be into burning conditions.
The fire season's gotten longer. The fire season's gotten hotter. A lot of different reasons for it: drought, climate. We had a very wet winter, but when we've had sustained drought over many, many years, that vegetation's gonna die, and it has.
As a native San Diegan who lives in Jamul, I've seen a lot of impact over the years, and I had to evacuate twice. So I really get it. There's been a heavy focus for over 10 years at SDG&E on wildfire mitigation, starting with our meteorology unit.
You know, I will tell you personally that when we hired our first meteorologist, I was one of the leaders in the organization that said, you know, do we really need a meteorologist at San Diego, right? But to think about what that group of people has accomplished is quite remarkable. They've actually created something that didn't exist in any other place.
The meteorology program, it was very humble beginnings.
Our mantra is no fire starts from our equipment. There's pole replacement, wood to steel pole, larger gauge wire, increased spans on the wires, and improved vegetation management.
We manage 460,000 trees in our inventory, tracking and managing monitoring on an annual basis. You got trees and the wires coming into contact and encroaching into conductors, or it can be as severe as an outage and a fire. How do we get ahead of that?
We worked with UCSD to help install mountaintop cameras all across this network.
When there's an ignition, we're usually getting the first notification from the fire agencies. When fire is reported in San Diego, we have cameras on it within seconds.
To this day now, we monitor well over 100 mountaintop cameras, and that's really been a game changer with our ability to monitor any wildfire activity on the ground.
This camera network was in collaboration with SDG&E and their meteorology center. These cameras are high definition, they're pan, tilt, zoom. Our whole goal is to confirm 911 calls quickly, provide situational awareness as first responders are going to the fire. They can look at the camera network on their tablet or iPhone. And so when they're going to the fire, they can see how it's changing, how dynamic it is.
Our dispatch center can control the cameras. We utilize the cameras now literally every single day. And we had a great success story from last summer. We had a fire in the south part of the county. We had been watching on the cameras, and within probably 30 seconds of the first 911 call, I watched those cameras move, and we all knew we had a major fire. But more importantly, the aircraft diverted en route. We literally had the first airplane over the West Fire in about a minute and a half.
After we triangulate exactly where this fire is,
Inverters and generators and rectifiers. All right, inverters here. Generators, 1, 2, lights go out. Rectifiers, 1, 2, lights go out.
Check.
The partnership with SDG&E, the County of San Diego, and CAL FIRE is that we provide the funds to operate it and maintain it, and CAL FIRE does our dispatch for us. And we are getting excellent dispatch times with the air crane.
We're about a 15-minute response from that dispatch call to actually being what we would call wheels up, so takeoff of the air crane. Once we launch it and it's part of their control, CAL FIRE, they own it. And they're the ones who are going to tell it where to drop water and how to drop water. Helicopters like our air crane are very important because they can refill without landing.
Communications are probably the most important aspect of a wildfire response because the communities are feeling really vulnerable. We communicate quite a bit in the form of town hall meetings.
I'm calling this meeting to order. SDG&E has come out to inform us on any future planned power outages due to the high winds.
And we explain to the community what we do and why we do it. And then we solicit their feedback because while we are the experts in running the electric system, we're not necessarily the experts in those impacts on those communities.
We're prepared.
SDG&E has probably been more community active than they ever have been. I actually know people at SDG&E now. Prior to that, I thought they were just the big utility company. Well, they've brought themselves back into the community. They've made themselves visible. They're here to help. They're here to listen.
My job gives me purpose. I know every time that I'm in this room, I am contributing to protecting the greater good of our communities.
I often refer to this fire problem as it takes a village. This is not just the fire department or the sheriff's department. It takes all of us. SDG&E, they're part of this community. Their employees live here, they work here. They don't want to see their communities destroyed. And they're part of this village that's addressing this wildfire problem that we have.
I think there is a culture inside the company where everyone feels a sense of responsibility, not only to SDG&E, but to the communities that we all live in and that we all are privileged to serve.
We're always going to get Santa Ana winds. We're always going to have high fire danger, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to have the big fire.
Steve and I had talked about the 2007 fires, and he came to me saying, never again are we going to see an event like this in San Diego, because that's what we're looking at. All that we're doing here is about never again.
My mission now is to make sure that on the next big Santa Ana wind event, I can drive to that same spot and see those same stars, but see zero fire on the landscape.